read the open publics meeting guide?
Yep. This is the regular meeting of the Land Use Board of the Township of Greenwich. Adequate notice of this meeting has been given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, and that a notice was published in the Star Gazette and Express Times newspaper. Notice was posted on a municipal bulletin board in the Township Administration Building in Greenwich Township, New Jersey, and notice was filed with the Township Clerk.
Excellent.
So now I'm going to read the procedures.
Correct.
So Greenwich Township Virtual Meeting Land Use Board Rules and Procedures. Zoom waiting room will be turned on. Upon entry, all participants will enter through a virtual waiting room. The board secretary will be the meeting monitor and will admit each individual. Please use your first and last name as your username. The board secretary will not admit anyone with appropriate pseudonym screen name. Note, if joining the meeting after it has started, there may be a delay being admitted since the monitor will be handling multiple tasks. Please be patient. To prevent background noise and ensure clear audio, most participants will remain muted during the meeting. To be recognized by the chairperson to speak, use the raise hand option located at the participant's dialog box. The chairperson and moderators will unmute as needed. You can mute yourself, but you cannot unmute yourself. If you mute yourself, you will need to use the raise hand option again to alert the chairperson that you wish to be unmuted. You are encouraged to use your device's camera and provide a video feed for the best meeting experience. Greenwich Township reserves the right to remove any participants that are deemed to be disrupting the meeting. This includes any inappropriate audio or video. Anyone removed from the meeting will not be readmitted. In the event the meeting has technical difficulties and ends abnormally, we will admit to restart the meeting. All required participants should try to reconnect using the original meeting link. All optional participants may also admit to reconnect if within 20 minutes of the meeting ending abnormally, a restart is not successful. The meeting will be ended and rescheduled if necessary. Information concerning rescheduling will be posted on the township website, www.greenwichtownship.org. For more information on how to use Zoom, visit www.zoom.com.
Awesome. So for any of you who have the agenda in front of you, you can put a line through flag salute. We're not going to do a virtual flag salute. That might be a little difficult. So we'll just jump right into the agenda. The first agenda item.
Roll call, right?
Pardon?
Got to do a roll call.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Paul Beam, Class 1.
Here.
Joseph Ciccelio, Class 2.
Here.
Frank Marchetta, Class 3.
Here.
Ray Buckwalter, Class 4.
Here.
Bruce Williams, Class 4.
Here.
Kathy Colin, Class 4.
Here.
Gary Hill, Class 4.
Here.
Don Marie Condas, Class 4.
Here.
Mark Scuderi is
He's recused.
Joseph Fiamma, alternate 1.
Here.
Jeremy Blunt, alternate 2.
Here.
Bill Cognac, alternate 3.
Here.
Pam Peslis, alternate 4.
Here.
Okay, the first thing we have on the agenda are the minutes from our March 12th meeting.
Ray, did you want to test the hand raising? You had mentioned you wanted them.
Yeah, that's probably not a bad idea. I'm going to unmute everybody for a moment. And okay.
They can hold their hands whether they're muted or not.
Yeah, I just wanted to be able to, if somebody has an issue. So if you're not one of the 4 hosts, you should see a box in the participants dialog that says hand.
But Ray,
Just do that now
Ray,
to make sure you can find it.
Ray, you have to click. You have to click on participants. That brings the box up on the screen. And then once the box is up on the screen, then on the bottom, it gives you the option of raising your hand.
Correct. So if you look at the controls on your screen, what John is saying is that there's a participants icon. If you click on that, then you'll be able to see the control that allows you to raise your hand. So
if you're using an iPad,
figured it out, and
way on the right.
If you're using an iPad, what
Oh, okay.
up on top? Oh, sorry about that. Oops.
I don't think the mute all worked, Ray.
That didn't seem to, but I'm not seeing a lot of people finding that raise hand. I mean, Kevin's
The
got it.
participant,
That's
is
it.
that what you're
Oh,
talking
you
about?
want, okay, you want people to
Dawn
click on it
found
there.
it.
I've clicked on raise hand. Can you see it, Ray?
Yeah. You can see
Yeah,
it.
now-
Once you have it up, leave it up until everybody has their hand up, and then we'll just clear them all.
Okay.
So once you have your hand up, just leave it up, so we know everybody's.
How about if we go like this?
Jeremy, I don't see yours, Jeremy.
Joe
Your hand,
Fiamma, try to click on raise your hand, Joe.
You're not paying attention. Those reading something.
There's the only one. There's no.
Did you find it, Mike?
No.
Mike, you got to get your IT expert back in there. Call your wife.
What the hell is this?
She doesn't know either, actually. I did.
How's that? All right, we got you.
Ray, I'm lowering my hand. Can I make a suggestion for those people that can't find it? Do what Joe Fiamma did. Raise your hand like this.
There we go.
I went in, I found it though. I got it.
All right.
Okay.
Well, we don't have anybody. I don't think we have anybody involuntarily muted at the moment, but if you, well, Suzanne will just have to monitor. All right, so I think we have most everybody that's figured out how to do that. If you raise your hand and you want to be recognized by the chair, leave it up until you're recognized, because if you take it down, I won't be able to remember that you had it up. So if you raise your hand, just keep your hand up. And Frank, is there a way to lower all of them at once so we can just clear the board? Oh, there we go. Okay, got it.
Just did it.
All right. So now I need a, well, first minutes
By the
from
way,
March 12th.
Ray, there's some background noise coming from someone.
That's why we
Someone's
have the
computer.
mute option. So that's why we should mute everybody until they're needed.
All right, Susanna, go ahead and mute everybody except for the professionals and the hosts. I don't know who, but it just went away, so.
Wait, where is?
Okay, so the first order of business is the minutes from March 12th. Does anybody on the board have any comments or corrections or suggestions for those minutes? I don't see any comments, nobody waving, no hands raised, so I'll ask for a motion to adopt the minutes.
And for everyone's benefit, please, everyone use their names. Whoever makes a motion, say your name. Whoever seconds it, say your name. And Susanna, please do roll call votes on everything and go nice and slow so the people that are taking notes know who voted which way.
Okay, this is Bruce Williams. I'll make the motion to adopt the minutes.
Ray Buckwalter, I'll second it. Roll call.
Paul Beam,
Yes.
Jeremy Blunt,
Yes.
Bill Cognac,
Yes.
Bruce Williams,
Yes.
Gary Hill,
Yes.
Don Marie Condas,
Yes.
Pam Peslis,
Yes.
Joseph Chichelio,
Yes.
Ray Buckwalter,
Yes.
Frank Marchetta,
Yes.
Joseph Fiamma.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. And the next order of business is we have the resolution from our, was that February meeting? 2020-02 concerning Block 22, Lot 600 South Main Street. Do we need to review that for anyone? I think it's pretty straightforward, but John, if you want to give a brief summary.
Just for the record, this was from the meeting on March 12. The hearing started on both 551 North Main and 600 South Main. And on March 12, a motion was made to certify and interpret, but the applicant just wants it to say certify, so I changed that. And the last draft that everyone should have in front of them is May 12, draft number 3. And this resolution certifies that the multifamily dwelling apartment building located at 600 South Main Street and the 4 dwelling units located therein are lawfully created pre-existing non-conforming uses entitled to continue on the property. For me, this is an exceedingly short resolution. It's 4 pages long. The applicant's attorney has reviewed it. I've made changes that she's requested, and in my opinion, it accurately reflects the board's action. And so I would suggest that someone make a motion to adopt it.
Dawn Marie Condis makes the motion to adopt the resolution.
Gary Hill seconds it.
Okay.
Motion to adopt the
Thanks, Gary.
resolution.
Roll call vote?
Paul Beam,
Yes.
Joseph Chitello,
Yes.
Frank Marchetta,
Yes.
Bruce Williams,
Yes.
Ray Buckwalter,
Yes.
Don Marie Condis,
Yes.
Gary Hill,
Yes.
Joseph Fiamma,
Yes.
and Jeremy Blunt.
Yes.
Okay.
Very good. The next order of business is the public hearing, and this is the application for 551, 555 North Main Street. So it looks like the applicant's here and prepared to proceed with that. If you'll all recall from our March meeting that there was inconclusive evidence in that meeting that the 4 units in that building pre-existed the 1977 zoning ordinance that would have made them not approved. So I believe the applicant has more information to present to us this evening. Is that correct?
Yes, so why don't we have the applicant's attorney enter an appearance and explain what has been submitted since that time and what she intends to do this evening.
Thank you, John. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Kara Kaczynski of McNally, Yaros, Kaczynski, and Lime, representing the applicants, as you stated, with regard to 551 to 555 North Main. As you indicated, we're requesting certification of the property for use for 5 residential dwelling units. And at the conclusion of the May 12th meeting, we were able to provide evidence that 5 units existed on that property back to 1981, thanks to the testimony and knowledge of Joe Messi. His testimony certified that it went back to 1981. And then we were also able to provide, by way of various tax records, property assessments, CCA inspections, that the 5 uses continued going forward from 1981. The gap that we left the March 12th meeting with was from 1977 to 1981. And that is what we are here to present evidence to the board in support of the fact that these 5 units did in fact exist prior to the 1977 ordinance. On April 28th, a letter and supporting exhibits and a certification from the contract purchaser was presented to the board by way of the board secretary. That is what we are going to focus on this evening, and I do have the contract purchaser who's executed the certification here online tonight to provide his testimony. So I guess unless the board has any questions, we can mark, John, if you'd like, if you feel we need to, that April 28th submission as an exhibit.
We don't have to mark it, it's in the record.
Okay.
And let's just describe it. It's an April 28th letter addressed to me from Kara Kaczynski, and attached to it, there's an exhibit A, there's an exhibit B, there's an exhibit C, and exhibit C is the certification of Mr. Kosier, and attached to exhibit C are pictures. There's an attachment 1, picture, attachment 2, a picture, attachment 3 has 2 pictures, attachment 4 has a picture, Attachment 5 has 2 pictures. Attachment 6 has 2 pictures. And then attachment 7 is a picture and attachment 8 is a picture. And that's in the record. And it's been distributed to all board members well ahead of this evening's hearing.
That's correct. Thank you, John. And just to briefly explain what has been attached to that April 28th letter as Exhibits A and B. Exhibit A is evidence that we reached out to the United States Census in order to see if we could locate any additional information at the request of the board. Attached to that is their response and the fact that they do not have any records prior to 1977 that we would be able to obtain, as we were not owners of the property at that time. And we were not named in that record at that time. So we were unable to get any evidence prior to 77 from the US Census. In addition, as per your recommendation, we contacted the county tax board, and they advised that they had no records and suggested that we reach out to the township's tax department, and that they would not have anything other than what the tax department had. So again, we ran into a situation there where we were not able to locate any additional information. And we also contacted the post office that did not return any of our calls or provide us with any information. So we turned over all of those stones that the board had asked us to, and we're not able to come up with any additional information. However, we were able to go back to the property, do a little bit more investigation by way of the contract purchaser, and this resulted in the certification and the photographs that we will go through for you that again show that the additional 2 units in the main building, specifically the 2 second-floor units, existed prior to 1977.
Yeah, just one question on the tax. You're not going to find any property tax records prior to 1968 because New Jersey didn't have a property tax. What I had said at the March meeting was how I proved it for my own house, which was built in 1928, was you had to go to the county to ask for the occupant tax records that exist prior to 1968. That's when Brendan Byrne was governor. He was the first one that's when the legislature and the governor enacted the property tax. So did you ask at the county to see the occupancy tax records prior to 68? But that's how they did the taxes up until the real property tax was adopted.
We asked for any records that they had with regard to this particular property prior to 1977.
Yeah, but did you ask for property tax records, or did you ask for the occupancy tax records?
I asked for any records that the county tax board had.
Which exhibit shows that?
That's shown on Exhibit B.
All right, so you asked for all tax records. I see it. Okay, thank you.
So if the board has any other questions, I have Mr. Kosier available.
So let me swear him in. Mr. Kosier, can you raise your right hand? Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes, I do.
Okay, Marcin, as you remember, this is a continuation from the meeting on March 12th. And what we were charged with at the conclusion of that meeting was to go back and find additional proof for the board that the 2 units on the 2nd floor of the main building at 551, 555 Main were in existence prior to 1977. Did you visit the property after the March 12th meeting?
Yes, I did.
And what date did you visit the property on?
Was on April 1st.
And what did you do when you were there on April 1st?
I went to the basement and I looked through all the electrical boxes, electrical wires, electrical disconnects, lights, whatever I could find, you know, to see if I can find anything what shows it was, you know, installed before 76.
And you took some photographs, correct?
Yes, I did.
And are you a licensed electrician?
Yes, I am. This is my driver license as me. And this is my electrical license, which is current right now.
Okay, so I'm going to direct you to the certification that was attached as Exhibit C to the April 28th letter presented to the board. Do you have that in front of you?
This is the first picture.
Let's look at the certification that starts out, it states certification of Marcin Kosier. That was Exhibit C to the April 28th letter. Do you have that?
Yes, I
Hold on
do.
a second, Karen. Frank, do you have a question?
Yes, can we have him take a picture of his license and his electrical certification? Because I couldn't see it. Can we get a picture and have that sent to us?
You want this? This is the diploma.
Yeah, I mean, if you could just take a picture with.
Tell you what he's asking is, do you have a cell phone? Do you have a smartphone with you? Take your cell phone. Hello.
Yes.
Kosier,
Yes.
take your cell phone. Take a picture of the license. Take a picture of your electrical license. Take a picture of your driver's license. Text it to Kara. Kara, you text it to me, and I'll text it to anyone who wants to see it. And later, I'm going to email it and get it as part of the file.
Okay. For now,
There's a lot of background. Very clear.
I think we opened the system. We were getting a lot of echo.
Getting feedback. Frank, can
Yeah.
you just mute yourself for 1 second, see if that changes anything or not? Can someone talk?
That's better.
Yeah, there's still a little bit of an echo.
We still have an echo.
Yeah, I don't think it was for me.
No, it wasn't. If anyone has their cell phone and their laptop on or has two devices on in the same room, it will cause feedback. So
Yeah,
if
that's
anyone
what
has
it
two
is.
devices on with this,
We
shut
could
one of
do-
them off, please.
Why don't we just mute everybody who's not talking, and we're using the hand signal anyway, so. Want me to start doing that?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, Frank, I'm gonna send this text to you.
Okay, Marcin, I think you can continue. While they do that, you can continue.
Okay, so Mr. Kosier, do you have that Exhibit C certification in front of you?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and you recognize that document?
Yes, I do.
And is that your signature on page 3 of the document?
Yes, it is.
And that is dated April 28th, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I just want to go through the substance of that certification for the board. One of the things that's referenced in there in paragraph 1 is your New Jersey license number, which is reflected on the documentation that you texted to me and that we provided to Mr. Drill. Just for the record, it's New Jersey license number 34, E as in Edward, L as in Lucy, 017-11200. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
So proceeding with the certification, there are some photographs that are attached. Why don't we start looking at the attachments, attachment number 1. Let's start there. Can you describe for the board what that is a picture of?
Yeah, this picture shows 4 electrical boxes going to each unit, and I'm a member at the March meeting. There was some inconvenience because I think you had the boxes of Square D panel, and I said it was Cutlass Hammer, and but I didn't have enough proof to show it to you. And actually, these boxes shows like they were a Cutlass Hammer boxes.
Okay, so let's just start. Attachment 1 shows each of the 4 boxes for each of the 4 units of the main building, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so then we go to attachment 2. And what is attachment 2 a photograph of?
I opened the cover into the boxes, which shows the electrical breakers. And, if somebody's familiar, then you can see this is a Cutlass Hammer panel.
Okay, and
Let me interrupt for 1 second. We didn't make the announcement that we're recording this meeting. We have to make that announcement because in New Jersey, well, doesn't matter. We're recording the meeting. If anyone objects, you're going to have to not participate. So I'm not hearing any objections. We can keep on going. Ray, I think Frank had his hand up.
Go ahead, Frank.
Yeah, just an FYI, I muted Jose Gonzalez because that's where the background noise was coming from. You notice
Okay.
there isn't any? So he's not visual, so I don't know if he's going to want to speak how we're going to do that. But, well, just Jose, hang on. We'll unmute you after Marcin's testimony, I guess.
He can raise a hand if he's got to speak,
can
and we'll
do
see him
it.
in the participant list.
Yep. All right, sorry for the interruption. Go ahead.
And you know what else, Marcin, maybe you could text Jose if the board is okay with that. Let him know that he could text you if for some reason you don't see the hand, and if he wants to say something, that might work.
Okay.
I see the hand. He's using the hand.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Can everyone see the picture that he was referring to? This is the first exhibit.
Yep, and for the record,
Wonderful. Thank
for
you.
the record, I emailed a copy of Mr. Kosier's driver's license and electrical license to the board secretary with a CC to the board chair and with a CC to Frank Marquetta. And so Susanna, at some point, whenever you get back to the office, you'll print this out and put it in a file.
Should we mark that, John?
Well, it's part of your letter. It's part of your report that was sent.
She's talking about the licenses.
Oh,
Look,
the
it's
licenses.
been submitted
Sorry.
into the file during the hearing. Marking it is like almost irrelevant because we don't have any physical record of it.
Okay, that's fine. And it is referenced, the license number is referenced in the certification, so this is just
Yep.
further. Okay, so we went through attachment 1. Marcin, could you describe attachment 2 for the board, please?
Attachment 2 shows, I opened the box, I opened the cover into the breakers, you know, and it shows you, like I said, it's a Cutlass Hammer panel.
And which unit is this for?
And for the record, Ray has put attachment 2, the picture, up on the screen. He's sharing it.
It's a 553B.
Okay, so moving on to attachment 3. What does attachment 3 show for the board?
I removed the cover from the panel and, you know, shows you more about, you know, this panel. And when you get the picture closest, it has the sticker, which proves it's a Cutlass Hammer panel.
Whoa, it proves what?
The brand, the manufacturer brand.
Right, we didn't understand the name that you said.
Okay, it's a Cutlass Hammer.
It's a Cutler hammer is what you're saying, yes?
Yes, yes.
And that is depicted, the closer photograph of that sticker is on attachment 4, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so attachments 1, 2, and 3, I'm sorry, that was not attachment 4, the closer picture. The second page of attachment 3 was the closer picture of the sticker. So, Mr. Kosier, what conclusions did you come to as a licensed electrician as a result of your viewing of what's depicted in the photographs of attachments 1 through 3?
On those pictures, I looked through for any stickers and the manufacturer, you know, dates, and I don't have solid. And these pictures doesn't actually show it was, you know, they were, you know, made before 77. But like I said, they must be, you know, in the 80s. But like I said, on those 3 pictures, I don't have, you know, I didn't find any stickers showing the date they were, you know, made before 77. But on the other pictures, actually, I can show you the proof.
And we'll get there. They have actual dates, but by virtue of the fact that there's a Cutler hammer sticker, what does that tell you? What do you know about Cutler hammer and when it was in existence and the fact that there's a Cutler hammer sticker on that electrical box?
I don't have exactly when they were started doing them. I don't have that.
What he's saying is he doesn't know because it's a Cutler hammer, but there's no indication of what year. So a Cutler hammer was producing these in the 1980s. That's what he said. It could have been 1980. He's saying, don't rely on attachments 1 through 3 to prove its existence prior to 1977. He wants to get onto some other attachment where he says it is dated. Is that correct, Mr. Kosier?
Yes, yes, it is.
I have a question though, Kara. In your report in item 7, you said that Eaton Corporation purchased Cutler Hammer in 1974, and the presence of those boxes shouldn't have existed after that. Where did that information come from?
The information with regard to the purchase was based upon research.
By who?
Web internet research.
Your internet research or Kosier's internet research?
That was information that I had found and presented to Mr. Kosier in connection with the certification.
So he didn't do his own independent research. He relied on you for that, right?
No,
I don't know if you did. Did you look that up as well, Mr. Kosier?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Once you show me, yes, I did look at them.
Can I ask you something? When Eaton Corporation purchased Cutler Hammer, did they eliminate the Cutler Hammer name, or did they keep Cutler Hammer on the name of the equipment, but Eaton Corporation just owned them?
Well,
No, they kept the name.
That information was not readily available, which is why.
Oh, I'm asking him. I'm asking him, Mr. Kosier.
No, they kept, no, you can
Right,
still
they
buy the
kept, they
Cutler
kept
Hammer.
the Cutler
Yes.
Hammer name, correct?
Yes, they still keep it, yeah.
Right, and in fact, when Eaton Corporation, after Eaton Corporation purchased Cutler Hammer in 1974, Cutler Hammer was still, equipment was still being produced under the Cutler Hammer name until what year? Do you know?
Not exactly, not sure.
Well, what's the latest Cutler Hammer equipment you've ever seen as an electrician?
Oh, right now you can even purchase the Cutler Hammer, the Cutler Hammer panels.
That's right. That was my point of my question.
Yeah.
Okay, so any other questions with regard to 1 through 3? Okay, so why don't we move on to attachment 4. Could you describe for the board what is an attachment 4, please?
Attachment 4 shows you 4 water heaters going to each individual apartment.
And how about attachment 5?
Attachment 5 shows you this is the one of the disconnects going to the upstairs unit.
Do you know which unit that is?
This is, hold on, because I'm looking at the pictures. It was 1.55. $553B. Hold on.
And then there's a second attachment, a second photograph on attachment 5. What does that depict?
Hold on 1 second because I gotta scroll to the pictures. Oh, this is the disconnect box, second attachment. This is the same box, but I did the picture of the door. And when you look at the door, there is the year of the manufacture, 1952. That box was made in 1952. And like I said, if you're familiar, that box has to be, you know, it has to be like, you know, it was made in 1952. Then it was probably, you know, installed in, you know, 50s, 60s. It was installed in the 60s, you know.
And it could have been installed in 52 as well, correct?
Yes, yes. Yes, it was probably purchased at 52 and installed in the same year or next year.
Okay, so moving on to attachment 6. Attachment 6, what does that show?
This is actually the other disconnect box going into the second upstairs unit.
And what does the second photograph on attachment 6 show?
Second one shows the The door, hold on a second. Yeah, it shows the door, which I take the picture, shows the door. And this is the inspection sticker, I think installation inspection sticker, dated at 4/27/59.
Hey, Ray, can you go to the next picture? The second picture of attachment 6. That's what he's talking about. Yeah, that one.
A little closer.
Gary Hill has his hand up.
Gary, you have a question?
Yes. Based upon the types of those screw-in fast fuses, were they legally allowed to be installed after 1977?
Which photo are we referring to?
It was attachment 5B.
He's looking at the disconnect boxes.
So attachment 5B, Marcin, or the second attachment to 5.
Yeah, in that picture, it shows the screw-in fast fuses.
Right, Marcin, what Mr. Koshar, what the board member's asking you is, in what year did the Uniform Construction Code and the electrical subcode no longer allow screw-in fuses to be installed? I know there are still screw-in fuses in existence, but at what year could you not install them? And at what year did you have to install circuit breakers and not screw-in fuses? That's what he's asking you. Do you know the answer to that question?
No, I don't know, but I can check this for you. I don't know that far, the code,
Gary, he doesn't
that
know.
far.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
Ray, I don't know if you're aware, but it says you're recording also.
Correct. I started it at the beginning because it didn't look like it was recording.
Okay.
It's better to have 2 recordings than none.
Well, we were worried about bandwidth, but that's fine. Bill Kanyuk has his hand raised.
Can you hear me, Frank?
Yep, we can hear you.
I just Googled circuit breaker panels, and it's
Bill.
Well, can't use it.
If you continue on that path, you're going to become a witness, and you're going to have to recuse yourself.
All right. Well, I gave him a hint.
Oh, Marcin's still there?
Board member's job is to judge, not to research, not to investigate, not to be a witness. Unless you want to be a witness and you want to recuse yourself.
No, I think I gave him a hint. They know where to go.
All right, Mr. Koserba, you can continue.
You can put it in terms of a question. Have you checked, the internet to see if there's a reliable source that gives an indication of when screw-in fuses were no longer allowed to be installed?
Well, John, I don't want to turn this into a real-time research session.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, we have the information that the applicant brought with them.
All right, gotcha. Okay.
And I think we have to go with that, or this could become a very long meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, just let him continue.
So, Mr. Kostier, based upon attachments 4, 5, and 6, and the dates of 1952 and 1959.
Whoa, stop. Not 4, 5, and 6? Oh, I see. Attachments 4, 5, and 6. Got
Correct.
it.
And the dates of 1952 and 1959, what would you conclude with regard to the upper 2 units in the property?
They were installed. They exist before that. Yeah, definitely, for sure.
And because of what reason?
Because, like I said, those boxes and next on those 3, yeah, because the boxes, the inspection sticker, which shows, the inspection like 57.
59.
And, I'm sorry, 59, yeah, because my pictures, and the manufacturer of the other disconnect, which is, going back to,
1952.
52, 53.
So
Yes,
you're
52,
surmising that because the box was manufactured in 52 and the other had an inspection sticker of 59, you're assuming that it was installed prior to 1977. Is that correct?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, so moving on to attachment 7. Could you describe that for the board?
Attachment 7 is the wire, the knobbing tube wire. The wire goes to the second, to the upstairs apartment, to one of the upstairs apartment. When I trace it back, trace it back to the box, which was actually was connected to the next wire, which goes to the
Do you know which apartment attachment 7 knob and tube wiring is going to?
It was 5-5. Hold on 1 second, because
and it is in your certification. I just want to place it in the record for the board.
yeah, I know, and I'm just kind of moving back and forth on my my iPad, which is not an easy one.
Okay, take your time.
Come on.
Gary, go ahead. Go. Oh,
While-
Greg,
while
Gary
he-
had his hand up, Greg.
While he's looking for that real quick, I just want to clarify that the box that had the inspection sticker from 1959, is that on one of the 2 second floor apartments?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you.
And that was going to the 553B, the wire.
Okay.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, so the knob and tube wiring in attachment 7 was going to 553B, correct?
Yes, yes, it was.
Okay, so
And
attachment.
I did some research actually when the wire knobbing tube was installed, and when was manufactured, and where they used, and actually that wire they used in 1880 to 1940.
Okay.
Then that actually gives more proof that could be, that could be used, around 1950, 52, 53.
So prior to 1977.
Yes, exactly.
And how about attachment 8? Could you describe that for the board?
The 8 is a second, hold on a second. Yeah, it's a second wire knobbing tube, which I trace it back. It was going to the second upstairs apartment.
That's 555B, correct?
Yes, 55B, yes.
So based upon the knob and tube wiring going to the 2 second floor units, what would you conclude with regard to those units?
Like I said, those units must exist. Yes.
You both overlapped each other. You got to ask him the question, let him answer it. Ask the question again.
That those 2 upstairs apartments, 553B and 555B, existed prior to 1977?
Yes, they did.
And why is that? Because knob and tube wiring was not permitted after 77?
Yes, I assume, yes. Then when I come back to New Jersey court, the New Jersey Electrical Code, yes, they weren't. They were stopped using them.
What year was knob and tube wiring stopped being used under the code?
I couldn't go back with the electrical code book that early, but I didn't find that one. No, that them, like I said, I don't.
Well, if you don't know when they disallowed the use of knob and tube, I mean, how can you conclude it was installed prior to 1977? You must know, or you must be able to figure out when they stopped using knob and tube wiring, unless you can't.
I think what we have to do is focus on what matters and what doesn't. I mean, intuitively, I think knob and tube wiring certainly predates 1977, but nobody can testify to that. We have these disconnect boxes that have date labels in them. And my question is, I assumed, and I think Gary asked a clarifying question. So both of those disconnect boxes are disconnecting water heaters that are for the upstairs units, which are the ones in question. That's just a clarifying question on my part. Is that correct?
Well, actually, Ray, that was my question. Why are you only putting in proofs to the 2 upper floor units and not also the
Because
downstairs?
that's what we, because I think that's what we try to prove.
At the end of the last meeting. If I may, John, there was testimony that those 2 units existed prior to 1981 by way of the fire official.
Right. Which 2 units? Well, which 2 units existed?
The 2 downstairs units.
I thought that he testified that the 2 units were converted to 4 and he didn't know when.
Because he knew that as of 1981 there were
Right.
4 units. So what we needed was proof that there were the additional 2 units prior to 1981.
Right, but
and that is what we are proving.
Well, here's my conceptual problem. Let's assume that this wiring proves that there were units on the 2nd floor, that there were rooms on the 2nd floor prior to 1977. The question is, okay, so you took the 2 apartments, they converted it. They instead of being two floor units, they converted it into 4. 2 bottom floor, 2 top floor. So he's put in all the evidence showing when the original apartments, what if you have it backwards? How come, Mr. Koshev, you didn't look at any of the wiring going to the 2 ground floor units?
No, I look at all of them, but yeah, I look at the wires.
Okay, so tell us about the wiring for the downstairs units?
You can see some of the wires nabbing tube. You can see some of the new Romex, wire.
Mr. Koshev.
The issue is this: if it was converted, and let's say it was converted in 1981, and they used Romex, so maybe they left the old wiring upstairs, and the conversion they used the new wiring downstairs.
No, but you got some now. You got some of mix of the wires going too downstairs and upstairs. But I only focus and bring the pictures. What goes to the upstairs unit.
Why didn't you also do the pictures of the downstairs? I don't get it.
Mr. Koshev, let me ask you a question. Would you have 4 hot water heater connections for 2 units?
He's only showing, go look in the picture. Go look in attachment 5. He's showing the disconnects for the upstairs water heaters. He's not showing the disconnects for the downstairs. Are the downstairs disconnects the same age as the upstairs, or do they have new disconnects for the downstairs units?
The one unit has the breaker. The wire is going straight to the breaker box. And the other unit has the different disconnects, but doesn't have any sticker, but it is, I would assume it is in the 70s,
Karen, you hear what he's saying? If the breaker for the water heaters for the downstairs units, one goes right into the circuit breaker, it sounds like it looks like he looked at the wrong wiring. In other words, the wiring to the top floor was the original wiring. When they did the conversion, they brought in new wiring for the bottom floor. That's what it sounds like, what he just testified to.
But the testimony that was previously provided was that there were 2 units on the bottom floor.
Well, I think the testimony was that there were 2 units.
Right,
I would go back to that and double check it, but if there were 2 units and then it was split into 4, I assume that was left and right. They didn't, I assume that they didn't have the upstairs or the downstairs vacant prior to making it 4.
No, they didn't build an addition, Kara, in other words.
I'm looking at all 4.
So the 4 units, we have testimony that there were 4 units as of 1981.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
And you're now showing that you have wiring that presumably is prior to 1977 to the 2 upstairs units. You have no testimony about the wiring to the two ground floor units.
But if the two units that were in existence prior to 1981, they would not be upstairs units, they would be downstairs units.
Why? No, the two units that were in existence were two-story units. There were two-story units.
Yes.
They didn't
cut
build
the
onto
stairs
it, they
off.
split the existing units. That's
Split them.
crux of
I
John's
understand
question.
that, but the wiring would not only have gone to the second floor for the water heaters.
Aha! So why doesn't he show the wiring to the bottom floor? He just testified that the cutoff for the water heater for one of the downstairs unit goes right into the circuit breaker box, which would indicate a circuit breaker box possibly after 1977.
Well, again, we were asked to provide proof of the upstairs two units.
No, you weren't. You were not asked to provide proof of the upstairs units. You were asked to provide proof of 4 units prior to 1977. There's no way. Who asked you to produce proof of the upstairs units only?
This was the information that we were able to locate.
No. This is the information that Mr. Koserb took pictures of. He just testified, Kara, that there are cutoff boxes for the downstairs unit water heaters. He said one of them goes right to the circuit breaker and one of them is, doesn't go to the circuit breaker. There's an older box and he doesn't know what year that older box is.
Mr. Koserb,
when I was there at the
say that again.
When I was there at the March meeting, I assumed the 2 units which they have the entrance door on the front, they were the existing, the existing units. When you look at the backs, you got the stairway, which we were thinking about it when was installed and all the stuff. Then I assume the 2 upstairs units, they were made, that's what we try to prove, where there's, kind of steps and entrance into those upstairs units when they were made. That's why I kind of focus on the upstairs unit, because that's what I guess we try to, prove.
What did you assume when these were converted? Did you think there was an addition built on the second floor? What do you think was up there?
No, because like I said, if you got 2 units and you got the 2 water heaters, let's say, then they could be, they could be a wire that can go to the breaker box, and that could be you disconnect,
Can I tell you something?
Like I said, but when you make the other 2 units upstairs, you bringing the 2 new.
Wouldn't it be less expensive to run your new wires on a conversion to the ground floor and leave the old wires going to the top floor, rather than leave the old wires going to the ground floor and run new wires to the top floor? Wouldn't it be less expensive to leave the old wiring on the top floor on a conversion and put the new wiring on the bottom floor?
But this is not a new wire. This wire it's old wire. We can say a little bit newer because it has, the BX and MC, which is next step newer. It's not like a new wire. It's not a new wire which was installed.
That's where we were in March.
Mr. Koserb,
in March, which was inconclusive, which is why they asked you to come back. And you came back, but you came back with details of the top 2 units, and you didn't come back with the details of the bottom 2 units.
Mr. Koserb, based upon your review of the electrical boxes, the water heater disconnects, and the knob and tube wiring, would you conclude that there were 4 units in this property prior to 1977?
Yes.
And based upon the photographs that you've seen, based upon your additional visual inspection of all of these conditions and everything taken together?
Can you repeat this, please? Because you break up.
Yeah, she's asking you a question. She wants you to say yes.
Just an FYI, Jose still on mute. So if you want me to unmute him, let me know.
So again, based upon your review, your inspection, would you conclude that that there were 4 units in that building prior to 77?
Yes.
Based on what?
Okay, so I think we have the testimony and probably all the testimony we're going to get on the existing condition of the building. Kara, do you have anything to add at this point? Because what I'd like to do is open it up in case anybody on the board has any questions, or in case anyone from the public who is attending this has any questions. And I think I would trust it to the board members at this point. They're just going to have to use their best judgment with all the information we have, and you know, make a call here. I don't see any compelling evidence, but I think we have seen a lot of evidence. Unless you have anything to add, I'd like to open it up to some questions from board members.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have anything to add. However, I would like to reserve the right that if the board feels that they'd like to see some additional information, you know, of all of the units together, that we have the ability to go back and get some additional photographs. But if the board feels it has sufficient information to make a determination, you know, then we can also proceed.
I think there's two courses of action here, and I hate to continue this, but I mean, I think you could ask to continue and provide information on the other units. I mean, if you have 4 hot water heaters with disconnects that all predate 1977, as an example, that's pretty conclusive.
Yeah.
There's no hole in that argument because you have 4 units. If you want to take a chance tonight, then I'll ask for questions, and once we run through that, then we'll ask for a motion and we'll go ahead and vote tonight. It's your call.
Well, why don't we see if there's any other questions of the board members or the public, and then maybe we can have a moment.
Fair enough.
Jose's been unmuted.
Thanks, Frank. Does anybody on the board have any questions for the applicant at this point? Gary?
Yes, if you could refresh our memory as to how the 4 units are heated. Are they heated by one boiler system, or are they individual units? And then I'll have a follow-up question to that.
Individual. The 2 downstairs are hot air, and the 2 downstairs are hot air, and the 2 upstairs are electric heaters.
Okay, the ones that are upstairs, is that wiring run to those original boxes that you photographed and has that inspection sticker in 1959?
You mean the water heaters or the heat, like a...
The heat itself to keep the, you know, to keep the apartments warm.
The heat to keep the apartment warm, yes? The heat, yes?
Yes,
2
correct.
downstairs are forced hot air. The 2 upstairs are electric heaters. He wants to know, have you traced the wire to the electric heaters from upstairs? And have you traced the wire to forced hot air downstairs?
In the interest of expediting this, Gary, the 2 boxes that were dated were disconnects strictly for the hot water heaters. They had nothing to do with the actual heat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jeremy?
Yes, considering we're talking a lot about the upstairs and downstairs unit now, and trying to determine which one was when, does anybody recall from our meeting in February what the witness, the lady, the nice lady, had said? She lived on Main Street. Did she differentiate between who lived where, what floor?
That was Miss Smith, I believe, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Ray, Paul seems to have disconnected. He's in the waiting room. I'm admitting.
Yeah, he told me his phone was dying, so we'll let him back in.
Yep.
He was.
So my notes reflect Deborah Smith, who lives at 609 North Main Street, was aware of 551 to 555 North Main, but she remembered she could only establish that there were 2 units prior to 1977. She was not aware that there were 4 units prior to 1977.
That's consistent with my notes. Sorry, John.
She was the one who established that there were, in fact, 4 units in 600 South Main prior to 1977. Then Mr. Kosier testified, talked about the BX, the other type of wiring, which was inconclusive. Then they got Joe Meshi on the telephone, and Joe said he could remember only 2 units in 1977. He remembered 4 units in 1981 because there was a fire. And that's when
Mrs. Miller, I'm sorry, but Mrs. Miller did not testify as to whether or not the occupants prior to 1977 lived on the first floor versus the second floor.
Muting Jose again, getting background noise.
Jeremy, she didn't differentiate between an upper floor or a bottom floor.
Okay, that's all I needed. I didn't recall and I couldn't find the notes here.
She was talking about 2 units.
Yeah, no problem. We're good then.
Thanks, Jeremy. Yeah, I seem to remember the picture of the property from the front. So the 2 doors, was this originally built as a duplex unit with side-by-side doors? Can anybody remember the picture of the building?
Ray, do you want to check on Paul? Make sure you can hear us. Paul, let me unmute you 1 second.
Yes,
I'm
we
hitting
did
unmute.
have photographs of the building.
Paul, can you hear us?
Paul, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you all hear me now? I think we're good.
Yes, all right.
Okay. The reason I'm asking is because to me, it's pretty obvious if the building was originally built as a 2-unit, there'd be 2 doors in the front, original construction, and then those stairways in the back would be add-ons. Does anybody else? Oh. Jose Gonzalez, I'm going to unmute you. Go ahead.
Yes, there were 2 side-by-sides. There were 2 one-family houses side-by-side, yes.
Right, so the doors in the front were original construction, no doubt, and then those stairways were added later.
Yes, that's correct.
All right, thank you, Jose. Does anybody else on the board have any questions for the applicant? What I'd like to do is open it up for anyone from the public. I think we should just unmute everybody, Frank, because I'm not sure everybody knew how to raise their hand. And then if you have.
Bill, you're unmuted, and then we're unmuting Jack Gallagher. Those are the only 2, I think, from the public.
Yeah, so if Bill and Doris or Jack Gallagher, if either one of you have a question, please just state your name and ask the question, and we'll try to get an answer.
Bill and Doris have no question.
Bill and Doris, what's your last name?
Gullion, G-U-L-L-I-O-N.
And what is your address?
13 Barn Swallow Court.
Thank you, Bill. Jack Gallagher, do you have any questions for the witness?
No, I do not.
Thank you, Jack.
Ray, did Bill and Doris have any questions or not? He said no?
He said no.
Okay. And Jack Gallagher, what's your address for the record?
504 Dory Place, D-O-R-I Place in Stewartsville.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, going back on mute, Jack.
Thank you.
Okay, so does anybody else have any questions before the witness or for any of our professionals before we draw this to a conclusion? Okay, I don't see it. Kara, would you want us to ask the board for a motion this evening, or do you want to, I guess, try to provide an airtight case? Right now, it's my opinion, I mean, there's some gaps. I see a lot of evidence that looks like a lot of this stuff was predating 1977, but I don't think it's conclusive because the best evidence that you have that I can see are these water heaters, but we have 2 of them that were in service before 1977, and we don't really know anything about the other 2. And the rest of it is, at this point, sort of relies on some conjecture.
Can I have a few minutes just to confer with my clients? I know it might be a little difficult. I don't know if we could take a break or how exactly.
Why don't you mute yourself and call your client on the cell phone? Have both of you mute yourself to make sure we don't hear what you're saying, and turn around so we can't read your lips.
How much time do you
Thank you, Jose.
Kara, how much time do you need? Oh, hang on, I have to unmute you.
Yeah. Just a couple minutes. I think we'll be fine.
Okay, I'm not going to go to the next agenda item then. We'll just wait a couple minutes for you and.
Yeah, just give me a couple minutes.
Okay.
If you're talking to him, Kara, do what the coaches do. Put your hand in front of your mouth. If you're not going to turn around. Okay, she took her video off. Good.
I think she just took her video off.
Yeah.
No, she totally dropped. I don't even see her name.
No, I
oh, yeah,
still
she
see
is.
her.
Okay. Yeah, I see it.
You know, while they're doing that, why don't we, did everybody get Mike Finelli's email about this stormwater training program?
I'm unmuting everyone.
Anybody remember that?
Unmuting, hold on.
Yeah.
Frank, by the way, you're doing a heck of a good monitor's job.
This is like my 5th town meeting that I've been conducting this way.
Yeah, you know, when I started sharing photographs, I lost all my controls. When you share, you don't have control. You can't do the monitor stuff.
Jeremy, Kathy, okay. All right, I think everybody's unmuted.
Yeah, so just a question. I'm pretty sure Mike sent out an email, and part of our requirement for our stormwater permits is that all of our public members go through some training.
That was a long time ago, right?
A long time ago. A year ago.
It's like 2 months ago, though. We got another one for this year, correct?
Yeah. You want me to try and explain quick, Ray?
Sure.
Okay. It was a few years ago that I think everybody was very diligent actually on the board and went and took the training, or watched the webinars or went to the seminar. So we were in good shape. The regs just changed this year, and basically the requirement came up again. But the difference is now, if there was someone or a board member, and this goes to the township committee members as well, which of course would apply to Frank and to Paul, if you took the course a few years ago and you not passed, and you attended the course, you're good to go. You fulfilled your requirement. Where you need, the difference is this: when your term is up, or you get reelected as a township committee person, or you get a new term as a planning board, land use board member, you've got to do it again. That's really all we're dealing with here. So I am pretty sure that there's been some change both at the township committee level and, more importantly, what we're here tonight, at the land use board level.
But Mike, that would mean the class 1 and class 2 and class 3, they're appointed for 1-year terms every year. Yep. You're telling me that every time they come up for reappointment, they have to take the course again?
John, that's exactly what I'm telling you. Hey, I didn't write the law.
But it said in your email that if you've already taken the basic course, that you could take a supplementary thing to fulfill the requirement, correct?
Correct.
It's an online.
So my next question is,
yeah, it's online.
Do we have to provide any certification of this, or is it the honor system?
Well, you are supposed to, and I think Susanna would be the keeper of this information.
She's got to sign a certification and submit it to the DEP. When I went through this in Bernards Township the first time, and you don't want your board secretary perjuring herself, number one, but number two, if everyone doesn't do it and she can't certify to that, actually, it's a condition in your, I think in your Egypti's permit, and it'll be a problem.
Well, I'm not asking her to certify. I'm just asking her to be the keeper of the records. I mean, that's, people should have, you'd have to be responsible.
So here's what we're going to do.
let
It's
her
really
know. That's
simple.
all.
It's very simple. All we have to do is everybody on the board has to send Susanna an email stating that they've completed the required training. If you don't know what the required training is, email Mike Finelli. He'll send you a copy of the original email. And then Susanna, when you get everything, you can compile that and you'll be able to fill out the report that you need. And I guess next month, if anybody hasn't sent you an email, we can have a wall of shame meeting or something.
Gary's hand is up. Gary Hill's hand is up.
Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, I was just letting Mike know I did not get an email from him. The last email I got from him was back in 2019, so I did not receive the email to do the stormwater training.
I'll tell you what, Mike, why don't you send that email to Susanna and just have her redistribute it to everybody?
Yeah, I think, well, Gene Weber from our office really has been heading this up, and he's been dealing with Lisa, and I know some of this went to Susanna. So, but we'll get it out to everybody again. No problem.
Perfect. Gary, or I'm sorry, Joe, you had a question?
Yeah, we're not all appointed annually. I think I'm a 3-year appointment. So I have to figure out when that started with respect to Mike's meeting notice or Mike's notice.
Right. You've already done the training, I presume? You did the original?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
So I would just, send Susanna an email saying that you've completed it so she can make her report. That way she has something in her files that says she's not making the stuff up.
Yeah, and just so, I mean, nobody loses any sleep over this. We are going to probably be monitored a little closer than some other towns because we are designated as a Tier A municipality versus Tier B. We do have an annual review from a DEP representative. They've never asked the question to supply this information, but there is some enforcement that does occur. Just so it's probably nothing you should just dismiss for what it's.
Okay. And one last thing on this, I see our applicant's back. Susanna, just send also an email to Joe Scuderi because he's not here tonight. I think he's the only one not present, and just let him know, what we just went over. Okay.
All right, I'm unmuting our applicants and their attorney.
Thanks, Frank.
Yep.
Okay, Carrie, you're back. You have the floor.
Okay, so we've discussed it, and if you need the additional information in order to have everything in front of you and make a fully educated decision, we want to give that to you. We'd like the board to adjourn this to the next meeting and give us the opportunity to provide you with the exact same information we have now with regard to all of those units. And I would also ask the board if there's anything else that you would like us to do that you think would be helpful, please let us know. And we will do everything we need to between now and the next meeting to provide that to you.
I'd say just my concern from what I heard is we all know it's a very old house. And I'm sure when it was built,
1886.
So I'm sure when it was built or when it was wired, the whole thing was tube and prong wiring, and they probably didn't rip that out, in order to do the second. So the tube and prong personally is not very convincing to me. And I'm sure that there were, because I owned a 1921 house at one time that had the tube and whatever. The initial wiring into the house would have been those screw-in type boxes. So to me, there needs to be something convincing that says really the wiring for 4 units goes back to prior to the 67, because otherwise it's just a kind of a reuse of wiring that was there.
Yeah, 77, but I hear you.
77, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I think the the 2 hot water heater disconnects that you have, to me, since they have dates on them, are pretty compelling. But since you don't have the other 2, I mean, the other 2 could be totally modern and we wouldn't know it. We would have to take that, and it doesn't sound like Marson really, you know, one of those has a circuit breaker and the other one is, I guess, maybe a fuse disconnect. I don't know. I'll leave it to you, but we would need the information for, I think, all 4 units. Is that, John, is that what you're?
Yeah, correct. I sent Kara an email on April 8th after she sent an original letter, and I said in the very last paragraph, it seems clear that at some point the 2-family house was converted to 4 apartments. The issue is whether the conversion occurred prior to 1977. Please explain how the package of information and pictures you submitted proves that 4 apartments were in existence prior to 1977. If you can prove that, your client will be entitled to the certification you are looking for. So you got to prove it for all 4 apartments, not just the top 2. You also have to prove it for those bottom 2. If you can do that, then you can take this thing home.
Okay, so I guess we need a motion to continue this until the
And
June.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, and again, trying to take this home at the last meeting one way or another, we focus now on, you know, the electrical, the hot water heater, and the boxes. What I don't want to have happen is to come to the next meeting and to have someone say, well, why didn't you look at this? Or why didn't you look at that? So to the extent that someone's thinking of something, I would just appreciate to know that now so that we can take the time for the next month and look into that and provide it, and we're not in the same situation next month.
I would recommend that you have a backup source. Don't just focus on those hot water heaters, but also maybe focus on the heating side of things. Because if you have 4 different units, you're going to have 4 different sources of heat to keep warm. So maybe not just focus on the hot water heaters, but have a backup of also proving that those 4 separate heating units.
I mean, we can give you ideas of what to look at, but at the end of the day, what we, you know, I think what we're asking is just something conclusive that doesn't require any speculation on the part of the board about post and wire or any other technical thing that we have no expertise in.
Understood.
Marson,
Mr. Chair, you're asking for a motion to continue the hearing on this application to June 11th without the need for further notice. Is that correct?
One minute, John. Marson had wanted to say something. Go ahead, Marson.
Yeah, I got one question. You'll be satisfied, let's say, if I go and look at those units like a light fixtures, and if the light fixtures or any outlets or switches, they have a date, sticker date on them prior to 77, that will satisfy you? Like I will say.
We'll put it, Marson, you and I will talk offline and we'll put in everything we possibly can. Everything else we possibly.
Right, you got to blitz this thing. You can't just cherry pick the thing and then hope the thing sticks. You got to come in and blitz it.
Okay, John, you were saying?
It sounded like you want to continue this hearing on this application to June 11 without the need for further notice, and say that if we're still, you know, on a lockdown or whatever, and the municipal building's still closed, it's going to be another virtual hearing, or if things open up, it could be an in-person hearing. And why don't we say, check the township website 2 days before the hearing to see if it's going to be, if it continues virtual or if it's going to be in person. How does that sound, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, exactly. And
Thank
Kara,
you.
I would
motion. Bruce Williams, I'll make that motion.
Jeremy Blunt, second.
Thanks, Jeremy. Roll call vote.
Paul Beam,
Yes.
Joseph Chichella,
Yes.
Frank Marchetta,
Yes.
Ray Buckwalter,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Kathy Cullen,
Yes.
Gary Hill,
Yes.
Don Marie Condas,
Yes.
and Joseph Fiamma.
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries.
Thank you, everyone. We'll see you on the 11th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay, the next thing we have on the agenda is the draft that Beth sent out of the new solar ordinance. I don't know if everybody had a chance to read that. I think it's pretty straightforward in intent. And until I saw Beth's draft, I didn't realize how complicated this ordinances could be. But the crux of it is I think it's section 4, right, Beth? Remind me.
It's, yeah, right now the township currently regulates renewable energy facilities, which includes all solar, all wind in section 4.19 of the township code. And so I took to that section to make a couple amendments to potentially permit. The idea was the roof-mounted solar not roof-mounted solar panels, but the solar shingles that are a new product. And so I took that concept and did a little research, and this is what I came up with. And if you'd like, I can walk the board through.
Okay. Just to preface this a little bit, I think we had an application a month or so ago from somebody who wanted to put in a Tesla roof system. And if you look at the Tesla roof system, it's pretty much indistinguishable from a slate roof or a typical architectural roof like you would see on a house. So that applicant asked us if they needed a variance to install it. And today they do, because it's a photovoltaic power generating system on the street facing side of the house. But if you have this technology that is indistinguishable from the normal building materials, then I'm not sure that we really should have a prohibition on that. It doesn't have any negative aesthetic effect. It's actually kind of a win-win. So that was the intent. And then we asked Beth to do a draft of a modification, which she has, and you probably have all read it several times, I'm sure. But the crux of it is to allow that type of a roofing system that doesn't involve, you know, bolting big boxes onto the roof of your house. I think when we review this, if the board is in favor of it, my understanding, and John will correct me if I'm wrong, he'll correct me if I'm not, is that we would send this to the township committee to vote to amend the zoning, correct?
We send it to the township committee as a recommendation.
Correct. So does anybody have any comments or questions about this? Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, a couple of things. As I recall, the vendor that was at our meeting where this was first presented, I guess it was February, was MJ. The system she gave us drawings of was not like the Tesla shingles. They were units, they were low profile units put on the roof.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't, would they fall into this, I guess would be the question. Would they be covered?
I don't think so, because so what my research revealed is when we first did your solar ordinance, which I want to say was around 2008, the only way to apply panels or to generate solar energy in a way.
That's just froze. Eventually she'll unfreeze.
Yeah, hopefully she unfreezes.
Yeah.
But Joe,
you never ever want to pick your nose during one of these things.
Joe, I think what she was saying is that probably wouldn't qualify because if you look at the definition, it says solar or voltaic energy structure shall be part of a building integrated system envelope rather than attached as a separate structure.
Yeah, that's.
And I've actually added something to what she wrote, which was my intent. And I don't know.
I was wondering if you're using the internet because I'm getting frozen.
Yeah. Okay, there you go.
Sorry, Beth. I was jumping in there while you were frozen.
I'm moving around my house, getting closer to my router.
Everybody off the Xbox.
It's pretty funny.
Can
You got a background up there.
Yep, you're back.
Okay. All right, let me start over again. So anyways, what I found out when we first did your 2008 ordinance compared to now is there are some really new products out there. So before, the only practical option for somebody was to buy these panels and install them on top of their existing roof or on top of a new roof. But what we have now is we have products like the solar shingles and then other products as well, where they're actually taking a typical building material and integrating photovoltaic power within that, in a sense. So if you think about it, we have solar shingles, and so they're actually replacing somebody's asphalt roof, for example, and applying these shingles. And so your primary roofing material in this example is actually the power generating material. So instead of being applied on top, it's integrating it with the system. And so the solar shingles are the most popular, the most attainable option for most folks. But we are also starting to see things like solar windows, laminates, skylights, things like that, and even awnings are starting to be considered. And this whole field is being referred to as integrated systems. And so that's basically what I've created here in your ordinance. Is your ordinance prohibits any solar panels on a roof that faces a public right-of-way or a public road. And so in order to get us to a place where you could allow things like solar shingles and also allow for any of these new technologies that might be coming out, like, for example, solar glass.
Uh-oh. She
You're
froze
frozen
again.
again.
Froze again.
She might want to go through her phone next time.
Am I to, could I say something? Am I to understand then we're not just making a general announcement or a change in the ordinance to include anything that could be put on a roof? We're basically talking about something that would be integrated.
Listen, Joe, I think Beth should just read, or someone, I'll tell you what, well, why don't
Correct.
I read what she wrote?
John, I'll read it because I have it in front of me.
Yeah, I did too.
So the change is solar or voltaic energy structures may only be installed on a roof or building facade which face a public street if the following requirement is met.
Okay.
Solar or voltaic energy structures shall be part of a building integrated, hyphenated, building integrated system such that the solar or voltaic energy structures are integrated into the building envelope system rather than attached as a separate structure and act as a building material. This shall include but not be limited to roof shingles or tiles, laminates, glass, semi-transparent skylights, awnings, or fixed awnings. So that's the actual change in the language.
I'm not.
Added a suggestion for Beth. I don't know if she can hear me yet, but I also, and I don't know if this flies, but I also added, my idea was to say that solar photovoltaic structures should be aesthetically indistinguishable from their non-solar photovoltaic counterparts.
Beth, did you get that?
Like a normal building material, it can't look like a solar panel.
Beth, did you hear Ray?
Yes, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, okay. I was gonna call in. Should I still do that? Maybe I'm better off being heard consistently.
Yeah, why don't you call in?
All right, give me 1 sec.
Sure.
Ray, could you repeat what you just said prior to that about aesthetics?
It's not in Beth's version, but I had just added a line as a suggestion, of course, that say that solar photovoltaic structures should be aesthetically indistinguishable from their non-solar photovoltaic counterparts. So in other words, shingle has to look like a shingle. It can't look like.
Yeah, can't look like.
So then who would determine whether it's really indistinguishable?
The zoning officer, like any other zoning ordinance provision.
Oh, jeez.
I mean,
So are you saying then that whoever wanted to do this would have to go to the zoning officer with a shingle that was sort of like that? You know, is that what you're? Is that what you know?
Well, that's a good question, Jeremy, because I would have thought that if the zoning allows it, that they would not necessarily need to get a variance. So, John, how would that?
You don't need a variance if you show it to the zoning officer and the zoning officer says it complies with the ordinance, just like anything else. For example.
If I'm putting a roof on my house, I don't need to go to the zoning officer.
Hey, folks.
Hey,
Can you guys
we
hear
can hear
me?
you good now.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry. I turned off my meeting. It occurs to me I probably should have just muted. But that's okay. So if you need me to log back in via Zoom, if somebody's going to share a screen, I can do that. But otherwise, I'm just on the phone.
To answer
So
Ray's
it's
question,
like a water heater, really, too, where
Well,
you might get
yeah,
a
but
permit
if you
after the
if
fact.
you add
Nobody asked permission to put a new roof on.
if you add Ray's language, the zoning officer would have to look
Can
at
somebody share the raised language? I
Ray,
didn't
can you
quite
read
hear
it
it.
again? Beth didn't hear it.
Sure, I'm sorry, Beth. I was reading it for Joe's benefit because you were answering his question when you froze. And I said, the suggestion I had was to add something like solar voltaic structures should be aesthetically indistinguishable from their non-solar photovoltaic counterparts.
But they are not aesthetically indistinguishable. They're pretty darn close, but they have, they're not shiny, but they have a little bit of a sheen in a way that asphalt shingles or slate shingles just simply don't have.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's really too subjective, Ray. I mean, I know where you're going with it, but I think it's too subjective, and I'd hate to see us in meetings going forward saying, you know, does that look like or not look, you know, is it indistinguishable or not?
Well,
yeah, we're not there yet. So that if you look at a home that there's no evidence, perhaps with solar glass, that might be the case. But for solar roofing, which is going to be the most common, we're just not there where you're going to look at a house and not know if you're paying attention whether or not they have solar shingles.
So I think the key then is the industry using this term integrated as?
Yes, yeah, that's not my term.
That to me sounds ambiguous too, the word integrated. What could be integrated later on? We don't know.
Frank, integrated means it's not attached onto something else for that purpose. Integrated means that the solar shingle is also keeping the water out of the house.
Yeah, but it could be something else that's integrated that is not what Ray is thinking about. Maybe it's not a solar shingle. You know what I'm saying? So that's
It's got to be a solar voltaic energy structure. If it's not producing energy, and
right,
then it doesn't meet the definition.
But Ray, correct me if I'm wrong. You're really wanting it to look like a regular shingled roof, as close as possible, right?
As close as possible. I mean, I know like, the only one I've actually seen is the Tesla system, and it's a little shiny. It doesn't look exactly like asphalt shingle.
What I'm saying is using the word integrated may not, satisfy what you're looking for. Later on, something could be integrated. Doesn't look like a shingled roof.
Yeah, unless integrated is an industry standard, term that's being used.
May want to look into
it. Is.
Beth
It
did
is.
some
I found
research
that
on
term. Yeah, I found that term in solar industry. I also found that term in use by other municipalities that are starting to regulate for things other than the typical solar panels that we've seen in years past.
But integrated doesn't necessarily mean looking like shingles. Doesn't have to mean that. That's all I'm saying.
Nor does
No, it has
mean
to be the
aesthetically
shingle.
pleasing either.
Yeah, or it may not be aesthetically pleasing. I just want to make sure I know what you're trying to get at, Ray, and I'm with you on it, but I don't know that word integrated is going to achieve that.
Yeah, there's two concerns I have after discussion. Number one is we don't want to be looking at a stream of applicants coming in because somebody has to make a determination of whether something meets the criteria or not. We should be able to define. The idea is that these people won't have to come in and get variances in order to put these systems in. Not that, they'll all have to come in and get approval from the land use board or the zoning board. And the other concern is that, if we do put something like this in place, how do we police it? Because it basically creates a loophole in the solar panel ordinance that somebody could jump through with the inappropriate product, and then we've got something that's after the fact problem on our hands.
Yeah. Gary's hand is raised.
I have a question with regards to, I believe it's section D here, page 1, solar and photovoltaic energy structures may be installed on any portion of a building which does not face a public street. Are we talking about just the front of the house? Because the way that's worded, both the front and the back of your house could be facing a public street, and you're, you know, because you got houses on, not the ones that they have their solar panels that actually face, oh Jesus Christ, I just lost the street name. The one that cuts between Greenwich Street and 519.
Dumont.
Dumont, thank you.
Dumont.
Yeah, that's exactly what this means.
But their solar
Yeah.
panels do face Dumont, and according to this verbiage, that would not be allowed.
They're not supposed, yeah, there should be no solar panels facing Dumont unless it's come through
Zoning
for a
permit,
C
zoning
variance.
permit should have never been issued for those.
Yeah.
Okay, because well, there's quite a few of them, and I think that would take a lot of people out of the game if they wanted to do solar, because there's a good possibility there's a street behind them as well.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought it was interpreted to mean you couldn't put them on the front of your house.
No, there's a prior applicant, if you recall, in fact, the application is still technically pending, where they have roofs facing 3 streets.
Yep.
Because they sit on a very peculiar lot, and they have every which way they're facing a street.
Okay.
Again, I think the intent there was to, you know, obviously not have the panels readily visible, but, you know, the way it's written, there's a lot of homes that probably wouldn't be able to put solar panels up at all if it was strictly interpreted.
But that's
There's a few that do have installations that are in violation of the current zoning. I know Paul has been involved with some of those, and also with I guess, Paul, you said you were involved with the Energy Commission?
Well, no, the DCA, the folks who inspect all this stuff.
The who?
The DCA.
Oh, the DCA, okay.
Department of Community Affairs.
Right, right. Because Jack Templeton, who's in charge of it up here, has point blank told me that many communities east of here have been changing their ordinances to allow solar on the front of the homes because of the way the sun works and all this good kind of stuff. The biggest problem that we're running into is, yes, some of the houses on Dumont do have it on the back, which is kind of street facing, but some of the houses, as Dumont does its L-shaped and thing, meets the criteria of the buffer, where some of them can, and then it gets close again. And then you also have the problem on Gary Road in Monroe, when they're on the back of the houses, they're basically facing a different street on a different block. And the problem that I've seen that's been happening is the solar people are coming in with a view of the home with the panels, and they're showing the street out in front. The plot plans aren't showing the street out in the back, and Larry has gone ahead and approved them because it's on the back. Larry had no idea that some of these were right on Dumont, Monroe, and or Gary. The site plans that they bring in just don't show that. And I've seen that take place over the last 2 years. Now, I know there's some issues with that, but that's not the ones that I'm challenged with right now. We have at least 5 residences who have put solar panels on the front of their house because they circumvented the zoning issue. And that's where it's at. And Jack Templeton from the DCA thought that we should be modifying our solar thing to allow that, because some homes just face it better, whether it's street facing or not. But I know a couple months ago we talked about it, and we wanted to all come through the land use, which is fine. You know, the solar people weren't thrilled to death with that, but I understand that, and that's where we're at. But we do have back of houses facing streets, and we have solar on it now.
My recollection from that meeting, Paul, was that we did a straw poll, and I think we had a fairly result that most of our members didn't want to see solar panels, the old style solar panels facing the street.
That is correct, yes.
And that's why they would be forced to come back through the zoning board. If they wanted to do that, they would need to get a variance. I mean, they live on a farm and the street's 100 yards away. I mean, there can be exceptions, of course, to anything. But I don't know that that sentiment's changed. It was pretty recently that we did that. I remember years ago when we did deck approvals over behind Home Depot, and we were doing them three a month because, there were just so many cases that came through. And I think that could happen with this solar. If new technology becomes available, we don't have the problem now, but if it happens, we might all of a sudden have an awful lot of people coming to us to try to get variances for something that, aesthetically isn't really, was never really the point to prevent these new systems. I don't know how to get there, but I think it's certainly worth discussion to see if we can come up with a modification that'll make it work.
Kathy
Right.
has
I think that, maybe the term integrated is a little bit scary because we don't know what's going to come down the road.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I think it's important that we provide an alternative to people who, have front-facing, whose front of the house is the side that you want the solar panel on. So rather than outright barring it, having an alternative for an integrated system, I think is a better option.
Well, I think what we said in the past meeting is that's what the whole variance process is for. So they would be banned, only they'd have to come and get a variance. So Kathy's hand is raised.
Yeah, I just have a question. The envelope system is the building itself and everything that gets built into it, right?
Yeah, the building envelope are basically all of the exterior parts of the building. It's the windows, the roof, the facade.
Okay. Okay, I was getting confused because there's also a building envelope, which is where the building sits on the property, right?
Oh, right. Yeah, that's a zoning term. Right. But the building envelope system is the building code term.
Okay.
All right. Maybe this is too simple, but what if we said that the solar voltaic energy structure has to also function as has to also be part of the functional structure? In other words, it can't.
I can say that, but it doesn't. But part of the concern I have with that is it's an additional hurdle for somebody potentially for something that doesn't affect the board's concerns. Your concern appears to be that some of the concern I hear is that folks don't want to permit something that looks different than asphalt singles or slate, etc. But if the board is focused or the township is focused on not permitting folks to produce energy on their home in any way that looks different than a conventional home, then I don't think there's an ordinance that I can write to permit that. There has to be some willingness to create or to give flexibility to allow for this new technology to be integrated, no pun intended, but integrated into a home. There's got to be some willingness to give some flexibility for folks to be able to achieve this good.
Yeah, well said. I agree. And I certainly agree with what you're saying. And I personally, not speaking, of course, for the board, but personally, I think there needs to be a little bit of flexibility because we know these things aren't going to look exactly like the traditional building materials. There's got to, I don't know, there's another one. I mean, off the top of my head, the easy thing would be to say that, the Tesla system is approved, but that seems to be singling out one company and one technology when there's a lot of other things that are probably going to create a lot of problems.
Doesn't that also mean that you're putting on an entire new roof? What do you think of the people that put on a regular roof 2 years ago? Oh, well.
Yeah, I mean, we're basically saying, if you want to get this approval, it's a significant cost increase. But that's the case for a lot of architectural standards that a municipality imposes. It's, good design costs additional funds. That's the reality of things. One thing I want to suggest, if folks are not familiar with this, maybe you guys would like to table this. Give me comments if there are amendments you'd like, but one of the other things you might want to ask me is, would you like me to produce some photographs, put together a package for you guys to see what these solar shingles and other types of building integrated systems look like for the June meeting?
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that. Well, let me just ask the board before we continue by, I guess, show of hands. Who thinks that this is a worthwhile endeavor? Because we'll spend some time on it.
Definitely.
All right, so I think
What was the result?
Pardon?
I was saying, what was the result?
I think we got about 5 people that, and I would say yes, because I started this mess. Before we go down the road, I think your idea is a good one to maybe.
Dawn Marie has her hand up too.
Go ahead, Dawn Marie.
No, I think she's answering your question.
Oh, okay. Awesome. I saw a few people use the button. Dawn Marie used the button. Good job.
She has her hand up again, so I don't know.
Go ahead, Dawn Marie. You have something to say, or are you just voting yes?
No, I thought I loaded it, but I guess I raised it. I don't know.
Okay.
All right. Joe, do you have a question?
Yes. I guess this is a procedural question. This is something that the Environmental Commission should opine on. As the representative of that commission, is it procedurally to this organization that they should speak, or to the Township Committee?
Township Committee. Just like the planning board is going to recommend to the Township Committee, if the Environmental Commission wants to get in on the action, they should also tell the Township Committee.
Okay.
But it's really more about aesthetics, right? I think the town's okay with renewable energy.
Right. If the Environmental Commission wants to
We're
say
not
so.
against renewable energy, but we're preventing it now because of this ordinance in some cases. So I think this would open, I know that, Jeremy made a good point. These new systems aren't going to be as cheap as the existing stuff. Older stuff's always cheaper than the new stuff. But at the end of the day, over time, as this stuff becomes more affordable and it's less objectionable from an aesthetic standpoint, then I don't see any reason why we shouldn't be allowing it.
Yeah, but Ray, again, are we really preventing it by having a ordinance? Are we preventing it? I'm going to go back to my last question several months ago. How many applications are we getting, for solar panels? Beth, you could put together whatever, different samples of every different shingle you want, but in the end, it's going to be who believes what is indistinguishable and who believes what, is aesthetically pleasing or displeasing.
That's where I was getting at too.
Have we ever entertained in the history, do we have any precedent for saying, you had mentioned the decks a long time ago. Did we drop the cost of a variance application for a deck? To say
We
$100.
talked about it, but
whatever.
we did not do that.
Yeah, I don't know how you get around something being indistinguishable from something else. Because you just have one person's point of view and another person's point of view.
Well, I think Beth did this research and maybe she can come back with some other terminology that will, we definitely need something that doesn't make it something that the zoning officer has to use his judgment. It has to be, in my opinion, it has to be a solidly worded ordinance.
Right.
And I get that. I agree with you on that, Jeremy. It can't be something that's strictly a judgment call.
The other thing would be, is there anybody here, in this meeting that is opposed as a whole for just saying, put solar panels up, whether you're facing this street or that street?
Well,
is there anybody really opposed to that?
We did that in our last meeting and it was unanimously opposed to, Jeremy.
Exactly. So then it's really an aesthetics issue So, you know, again, it just it's just who believes what is pleasing and what is not pleasing. And then it becomes an issue for the people that get the letters that are 200 feet from the people that want to put it in. I don't know how you get around it.
But Jeremy, that's the issue right now. Right now, the ordinance prohibits solar panels on a roof facing a street. Right now, you're not getting variance applications. Let's assume it's because of the cost of them. This ordinance would make it easier for people to put it facing a street, but it will cost them money. They'll make a value judgment on whether or not they want to spend that money to do that.
Yeah, granted, but you know, again, how do we know as a town? Because this ordinance is specifically for really aesthetics. How do we know that what they're going to put up is going to be aesthetically pleasing? And as the board that represents it, really the township county that represents the community, how will they know?
Right, Jeremy.
Well,
the answer
aesthetically
is
pleasing is a loaded term. There's nothing that would prevent somebody from putting up a completely abysmal roof, for example.
Right.
You know, had your favorite sports team logo painted.
Right. That's painting my house pink, right?
So we can't control aesthetics 100%. But at the end of the day, everybody agrees that these old style solar panels look like crap, to use the technical word for it. So there's new technology that doesn't look bad. And if we can somehow...
but you say it doesn't look bad, and I'm not disagreeing with you, Ray, but there are people out there that would say, yes, it does look bad.
But there's people out there, Jeremy, that would say the old solar panels look great. We just
absolutely
great,
no doubt about it. But you know, you're splitting hairs again. We're just going to wind up going down a rabbit hole here.
Well, I'm just not sure I see your point. I mean, either everybody that wants to put solar panels on the street facing has to come in for a variance, which is
as it is now
for a homeowner, which means that this new technology. Maybe this new technology will pass us by, because if they're going to have an expense of going to a variance, maybe they're not going to put up the new stuff. Maybe they'll put up the old crap that's ugly.
Oh, sure.
So at the end of the day, it's an idea to allow our town to move forward with technology. And I think it's good I think solar energy is beneficial. At the end of the day, I think it's a good thing.
I 100% agree with you. I think it's a great thing. I just don't know how you get around whether something is pleasing to somebody else, because everybody has a different opinion when it comes to that.
It's
well,
a great
that was
thing
the idea to have Beth sort of recraft this or take a look at it and see if we can come up with something that takes some of the guesswork out of it.
That's going to be a question you'll be asking the zoning officers as you hire them. What do you think of this? What do you think of this?
I got a question for John. John, Paul stated that the zoning officer accidentally or shouldn't have approved them, but did approve the solar. Does that now set a precedent?
No, it doesn't set a precedent, but the township is stopped legally, cannot force them to be removed. When a zoning officer does something by accident or does something that shouldn't have been done, it does not set a precedent.
Okay.
Can I ask, does anyone have a feel for why we aren't seeing more of these? Paul used the term circumvent earlier. Are there others besides the one that have gotten past the zoning officer that we should be worried about? Are there others that should have been coming to us, for example?
Yeah, I think Paul has several that just put them up without asking anyone. Correct, Paul?
Yeah, and there's also several that put them up properly and still didn't seek zoning approval either. So, yeah, the whole system's a little circumvented.
Well, okay, when you say it's circumvented, they cheated the system. If you wanted, the zoning officer could go out and give them a notice of violation. It's not like you don't have to take it sitting down. So,
well, I understand that.
That's a policy decision for the township committee.
Right. The problem happened that the DCA turned, and they're not doing it anymore. We're all on the same page. The DCA went out and approved all the permits, the electrical, and all of that kind of stuff, not knowing that they had circumvented zoning. So that's what. Well, I have all my approvals. You know, so there's been some mishmash going on. I mean, there's really only 5 or 6 major violations. I don't actually have a count of how many put it up who never came to vote. But the same thing with the household generators now. I can't tell you how many people put them up without ever coming into zoning, because the Lowe's and everybody were just out there knocking them off. The DCA was approving them, but they never came in for the initial zoning application to get it approved. And I'm certainly not going to track down that, nor Larry or anybody. So there's some issues about how it's all being handled and stuff. So
the final
quick question, maybe for maybe it's Mike or John. The deck applications way back when, and presumably a roof thing that a homeowner's coming in. What's your guess on the actual cost of coming in for a variance on one of those?
I have no idea.
$5,000.
Yeah, I was going to say it's
between 3 and 5, Bruce, and that's assuming you wouldn't fire. You wouldn't hire an attorney. That would be the 3,000 end. If you have to hire an engineer to draw up a plan, hire an attorney, that's the $5,000 end. So that's what you're talking about. I mean, it's real money for sure.
Jeremy's hands up.
Jeremy?
Paul, maybe a question for you or anybody that knows it. Before a homeowner would want to, or a business want to put a solar panel on their roof right now, are they required to go to and get approval from the zoning officer? And if
yes,
so,
they
then they are.
They are,
Now,
absolutely, yes.
So then my next question would be, aren't the solar panel companies, or at least maybe in the cases that Paul were talking about, aren't they supposed to be looking for that permit that it was approved to put up?
Well,
That's the case.
You would think so, Jeremy. The problem is other towns don't have the same rules. And
Okay.
some of these companies have shown up and have just gone ahead and done it without.
Okay. No. Okay.
I have a follow-up
I just wanted to
question
clear
to-
that up, yeah.
Thanks, Jeremy. I have a follow-up question that Jeremy so wouldn't it require an electrical permit as well, Paul?
It does, yeah. And right up until recently, the DCA was handing this stuff out regularly, not knowing that we had a zoning issue with it. Now, DCA has assured me that it won't be done anymore, but they've done it 100 times.
So the DCA can issue a permit for a resident in our town to do electrical work without them going to our zoning?
That is
No.
correct.
Well,
They're
that
not-
happens
no.
all the
They're
time.
not supposed to, but
They're not supposed to, no.
they were
I'm the zoning officer in another town, so
One at a
I'm gonna speak right on point here. It's very simple. If the DCA is working in conjunction with the township and knows that under any circumstance they should not issue a plumbing permit, an electrical permit, a building permit, then that's what protects the town.
And Mike,
If the DCA, John, hold on, let me just finish. If the DCA starts issuing permits, as Paul explained, which they absolutely do without having that zoning permit, that zoning clearance in their hand, then that's exactly what's going to happen. All these permits are going to get approved, and the individual, the homeowner, is completely blameless and not at any fault.
Right.
So that's there you go. Go ahead.
the DCA is supposed to enforce the UCC, the Uniform Construction Code. There's a provision in the Uniform Construction Code that says before you can issue a construction permit or any electrical permit or plumbing permit, all other local municipal approvals have to have been granted. So technically, the DCA should be checking to see if they have a zoning permit. And if they don't, I mean, and it goes on, then the township has to stop it. And if the DCA won't stop it, then your only choice is to pull your contract with the DCA and get your own construction code official, which is a money issue. But
no, with that being said, they have stopped it. You know, they just didn't have some clarity. Even though you're telling me it was in the code, they didn't have clarity. They have stopped it. It won't happen again.
Yeah.
Did we send them a letter from an attorney to tell them to stop that, or did we just ask them over a beer? That seems like kind of a big thing.
No, we didn't have a beer, Ray, but it was a personal conversation in their office.
should we follow up with some sort of a notification, or do you think that, I mean, that's your call as a township committee members, you guys have to decide, but.
I think there's a much clearer understanding right now. But that's one of the problems that I'm finding between the land use board and the DCA and even the town as a rule. Something gets passed here, it really doesn't trickle up to everybody that it needs to be. But that's another problem down the road. But for right now, the problem's been solved.
All right. Well, I'm going to suggest Beth had made a suggestion that she's going to do a little more work on this draft solar ordinance and circle back on it. And we're kind of going down a rabbit hole here anyway, but I think that's probably a good idea. We're obviously not going to, I think, approve it tonight. And then we'll see if we can fine tune this and make something that works for everybody. If everybody, if I get somebody to give me an amen on that, then we'll go.
So we're authorizing, so I guess I'd make a motion to authorize Beth to pull together some additional information and examples for us.
Yep.
Gary Hill seconds that.
I guess we have to do a roll call vote because John's still here.
Can we, before we vote, can we at least find out can you label what additional information is going to be there?
I think that's the best.
Yeah, I thought I would.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I thought I would produce some photographs or any industry information. I came across some brochures and some photographs that might be useful to you guys so that you have a sense as to what qualifies for that. And I'm also going to, given some of the examples I find, I'm also going to give some thought as to what additional language might be helpful in the ordinance. I've got to think about what I can put in there, but that's exactly what I'll do. I'll put some thought into changes to the ordinance and give you guys some graphics to help understand what the ordinance is addressing.
Good.
Roll call.
Jeremy? All right, we have a second roll call.
Paul Beam,
Yes.
Joseph Titelio,
Joe, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you? I'm sorry.
We're doing a roll call. You're up.
He said yes.
I said yes. Yes.
Okay.
Frank Marchetta,
Yes.
Ray Buckwalter,
Yes.
Bruce Williams,
Yes.
Kathy Cullen,
Yes.
Gary Hill,
Yes.
Don Marie Condas,
Yes.
Joseph Fiamma.
Yes.
Motion carries. I think that's it.
I just got one thing for Jeremy, actually. I want to give him a chance to clarify his statement.
Uh-oh.
So you said solar is great. I think you really mean is solar done the right way can be great, right? Because this town has turned down solar farms and things like that. So it's not always.
Oh, well, you know, and well, you want to go even further to that, how long before, you know, the state, you know, grants an inherently beneficial use to all solar panels facing south, regardless of the street. So is it great? Yeah, it's great. Is it aesthetically unpleasing? Absolutely. Was 10 years ago the greatest solar panels ever? Yeah. Is Tesla great today? Yeah. And 10 years from now, something else will be great too, and Tesla will look like crap.
I'm just saying that we could have future solar farm applications, and they may or may not be great. I don't know, but they don't. Not necessarily all solar is great.
All things environmental, buddy.
Okay.
You don't look green, Jeremy.
I'm all green.
All right.
You're wearing an interesting blue T-shirt is all I'm going to say.
Well, that's it's very difficult for me, John, to distinguish between blue and green.
Oh, go green. Go green, Jeremy.
Very nice.
Ouch.
Love you guys.
Unless anybody has anything else, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
Gary Hill motion.
Second.
Thanks, Joe. Do I have to do a roll call on this too?
No, you're German. You can call all in favor.
Well, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Be safe, everybody.
Abstain? Motion carries. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, see you next month, guys.
Great job moderating.
Good job,
And
everyone.
Frank, good job moderating, man.
Good job with the meeting.
Good job, Frankie.